Everyone knew I was completely in love with Chloe. I had been her loyal follower, her doormat, and had even taken a knife wound for her. In my devotion, I gave up everything that mattered to me and lost any sense of my own dignity. But when I was kidnapped alongside her, everything shattered. Chloe was convinced that I was the mastermind behind the whole thing, that I had orchestrated it all just to hurt her first love, Dylan. She stood by and let the kidnappers rough me up, a cold smirk playing on her lips as they did. It was then that I knew I had made a terrible mistake. When I came to, I was back in time, just before my college entrance exams. In front of the shocked eyes of my family, I ran out and desperately stopped the rebellious girl I now recognized. "Maya, I'm here to see you," I said. Chloe, who was standing nearby, stared at me, the hope in her eyes slowly draining away. "So," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "you've been pursuing someone else all along." I remembered the moment my world had collapsed. When the kidnappers forced Chloe to choose between me and Dylan, she chose her first love without a moment's hesitation. I had expected it, of course. As she shielded her pitiful first love, her annoyance toward me only intensified. "Alex, enough with the act," she had sneered. "Just leave, you're disgusting." Even when the cold steel of a knife pressed against my throat and drew a line of blood, Chloe remained convinced that the kidnapping was my own twisted scheme. Her belief was solidified by Dylan, who claimed the kidnappers had gone easy on me. He turned his head to show her a faint slap mark on his cheek, a mark he had secretly asked one of the kidnappers to give him before Chloe arrived. Naturally, she believed his lie completely. "Since Chloe has made her choice," one of the men said with a grin, "leave this one for us. Don't blame us for being harsh." Chloe paused for a fraction of a second, but then her expression turned icy again. "I don't have time for your childish games," she said. "If you're going to put on a show, at least make it believable. As it is, why would I fall for something so pathetic?" She looked at me, her eyes filled with that familiar, cutting disdain. "Chloe," I called out to her, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. I seemed to have made a grave and irreversible mistake. All my dignity was gone, trampled on by anyone who pleased. Even when Chloe detested me, I would drop everything and rush to pick her up after a late-night call, only to be mocked by her friends for being nothing more than a lapdog. I once helped her plan an extravagant party while I was sick with a fever, a party that was meant to celebrate the success of her first love. It was later, in her study, that I saw a photograph that changed everything. It was a picture of Chloe with an unknown twin sister, a girl who had reportedly died at the age of 17. I stared at the photo, a crazy, unsettling feeling creeping into my heart. I felt like I had truly messed everything up. Driven by this new revelation, I dived into researching Maya's story, but there was hardly anything to be found. The only concrete fact I could uncover was that at 17, Maya had been accused of bullying. Her family, feeling utterly humiliated by the scandal, had changed her last name and swept the entire affair under the rug, taking Maya's memory with it. I wanted to refuse this version of the truth, to find something more. But before I could, I was kidnapped. Chloe at first didn't seem to understand what was happening, but then she sneered. "Strange," she remarked. "I thought you were so convinced you were in the right." Her hatred for me stemmed largely from the fact that her parents had appointed me to watch over her, a role she saw as a profound humiliation. For this one perceived wrong, my entire world was upended. The physical pain from the kidnappers was beginning to feel numb. Dylan, of course, was not innocent in this. He had instructed them to hit me only in places that would be covered by my clothes. I swallowed the metallic taste of blood in my mouth and whispered, "Just for this one thing wrong." Chloe let out a laugh, perhaps about to deliver another cutting remark, but she froze. Her attention was caught by the kidnappers, who were now dragging me toward the edge of the pier. Tying me up and dumping me into the water probably wasn't part of her plan. As they threw me overboard, I thought I saw her reflexively leap toward me, a flicker of panic on her face. But it didn't matter anymore. As the cold water enveloped me, I felt a strange sense of release. It was as if I had been reborn. I looked down at my faded, hand-me-down clothes and my calloused hands. During the years I had spent chasing after Chloe, I had kept my hands soft and manicured. But now, someone was dragging me along, their harsh words ringing in my ears. "Boys who just read books are useless! Go to work! Thinking you're so tough, eh? What's school going to get you?" Stunned, I forgot to struggle, letting my so-called mother drag me across the rough ground, tearing my clothes and scraping my skin. The sharp pain jolted me back to reality. "Let go of me!" I struggled, but this malnourished body was no match for a woman hardened by farm work. Dredged-up memories, long swallowed by a deep-seated fear, surged back. I bit my lip to quell a scream, clawing desperately backward. My other hand fumbled inside my bag for the utility knife I always carried. Just as my fingers closed around its handle, a bold, familiar voice broke through the haze. "Human traffickers? This brazen now, kidnapping someone in broad daylight?" That familiar voice, those familiar words. I stared, teary-eyed, at the figure backlit by the sun. Seeing her again somehow hurt so much. In my last life, it had happened on this same deserted path. During lunch, my mother had lured me out, trying to drag me home from school. It was Maya who had stopped her. She had given my mother cash to leave me alone so I could continue my studies. Later, when I was short on tuition, a company owned by Chloe's family had stepped in to help. Maya, annoyed at my mother's persistence, had pulled a wad of cash from her pocket. "Is it money you want? Take it and leave him alone." My mother counted it with a greedy smile, then tried to act tough. "Miss, this isn't enough." Maya just rolled her eyes. A teenager, but already tall enough to draw stares, she pulled a ring from her finger and handed it over. "Trade this." My mother, with a greedy grin, reached for it, but I snatched it first. Her face fell, and she raised her hand. "You brat!" But she held back. With the knife now in my hand, I glared at her. She had only been given 1,000, but there was 2,000 in cash here, more than enough. "Can't you even count?" Maya grumbled, sidling up next to me and blocking my mother's path. I tightened my grip on the utility knife, my expression unreadable. "If you keep playing games," I said, my voice low, "I don't mind tearing everything apart. You're most fond of your precious daughter, aren't you?" Perhaps it was the look in my eyes, my sheer determination to drag everything down with me, that finally scared my mother. She didn't dare ask for the ring again. After spitting a few dirty curses, she left in a hurry. I kept holding the utility knife until her figure had completely disappeared from view. It was only then that Maya suddenly laughed and lightly patted my head. "You look so skinny and weak," she teased. "I didn't think you'd actually pull out a knife. What, you think you can kill someone at your age?" I didn't respond. I just quietly put the utility knife away and then stared at Maya in silence. She looked exactly like the Chloe I knew, just much younger. The only discernible difference, perhaps, was the tiny mole on Maya's nose. Something you wouldn't notice unless you were looking for it. "Why are you staring at me?" Maya touched her nose, looking exaggeratedly surprised. "You're not seriously thinking you can kill someone, right?" I still didn't answer, which left her looking a bit stunned. Maya didn't head back to school right away. She just wandered around aimlessly on the streets, and I followed her. I trailed her to the point where she started getting fed up. "Hey, are you going to follow me into the girls' restroom too?" she asked, intentionally emphasizing the words girls' restroom. I glanced at the school uniform tied around her waist and asked a random question. "Why aren't you in class? The lunch break is over." "Why aren't you?" she shot back, laughing angrily. "I got leave," I replied. That seemed to throw her off. She didn't look too happy. I thought she'd be mad, but she just ran a hand through her hair and pointed at me, a confused look on her face. "I need to save poor boys like you. School just holds me back from becoming a world hero." It was a very immature, syndrome-ish thing to say, the complete opposite of Chloe's personality. But I had still mistaken her for someone else. A wave of indescribable despair and sadness washed over me, so strong that I was nearly out of breath. I felt dizzy, which seemed to scare Maya. "What's up with you, kid? What's your name?" I heard my own hoarse voice as I grabbed her arm. She was skinny, but surprisingly strong. "I need to know your name, so I can find you and pay you back later." I tried to give the ring back to Maya, but she refused. "It was just a useless decoration to me," she said, tossing the ring into my bag without a second glance. "Unlike my sister, I'm never short on money." Her words gave me the perfect excuse to pursue the idea of paying her back. I stared at her with unblinking eyes until she looked away awkwardly. "Big brother is stronger than he looks," she suddenly laughed, easily freeing her arm. "Want to pay me back? Sure, that little piece of metal isn't cheap. Someday you'll manage it." She mumbled something about my stubborn attitude, but then she smiled and tapped my head. "Okay, remember this. I'm Maya." After she told me her name, she wouldn't say much more. On the way back to school, I tried to chat with her, but every time I tried to learn more about her, she would skillfully change the subject, a carefree smile never leaving her face. So I just let it go for now. "You're really smart," Maya said suddenly, out of the blue, just as we reached the school gate. I didn't get it at first and looked at her after a quizzical, "You know me too," she elaborated. "The one at the top of the class, always outscoring Chloe, Alex." "Yeah, I know you," Maya grinned. I had so many questions for her, but the security guard had spotted us. "Hey, you two students, why are you out during class hours? Skipping class for a date, are you?" I automatically turned to explain to the guard, but right then, I felt a soft voice by my ear, carrying the crisp, clean smell of a young woman. "Keep going," she whispered. "I'm counting on you to take that girl down a peg." Maya laughed and then ran off before the guard could reach us. She never turned back, but it was as if she knew I was watching, casually waving from behind. The afternoon sun glinted on her hair, flashing a hint of red under the black. I thought it was a trick of my eyes, and then she vanished into the shadow of a corner. "The other girl, she isn't from our school," the guard rambled on. "You kids always getting into these messes." I listened quietly, a little stunned when my hand touched something hard in my pocket. It was Maya's ring. She must have slipped it back into my uniform pocket without me noticing. I owed her too much already. Maya's nonchalant voice seemed to echo in my mind. "Keep going." She must have snuck it back in at some point. The guard's lecture continued, but I just held the ring tight, a slight tug at my lips. Well, a few more debts wouldn't hurt. Going back to high school wasn't exactly a happy experience for me. The suffocating family life, the judgmental stares from others, the bullying, and the teachers who played favorites. It had all crushed me to pieces in my past, leaving me stuck in my own little world. That was until I met Maya. Until I met her again. "There you are again," she said, casually smoking a cigarette and eyeing me in surprise. She clicked her tongue. "You should visit a temple or something. I swear you're like a magnet for bad luck." She said it pointedly. Behind her, a group of girls hovered, visibly scared of the few thugs she had brought with her. I silently picked up the books that had fallen into the muddy ground, books that had been stamped on several times. Just like before, those people enjoyed bullying me. And just like before, Maya appeared to help me out. But this time, I hadn't been knocked out, and Maya didn't leave as soon as she took me to the hospital. Instead, she scratched her head, dropped down, and started helping me with the books. "I'm serious," Maya said, pouting. "Both times I've seen you, you're getting pushed around. You really should go pray. I know this temple that's supposed to be pretty effective." While saying that, she started chuckling to herself. "You know what? I really feel like a hero saving a damsel in distress right now." "Sister Maya, you're a hero, but he's no beauty." One of the younger guys couldn't help but chime in. "You always have the most to say," Maya snapped. She was about to comfort me, but paused awkwardly when she noticed my dried-out hair and ill-fitting old-school uniform. Finally, she turned to the younger guy she had brought along and asked stiffly, "Do you have any tissues or handkerchiefs?" "Sister Maya, didn't you say carrying those things would make us look soft?" Maya was momentarily taken aback. She glanced at the girls, who looked pale, then turned away in disgust. "Never mind, using theirs would be bad luck," she huffed. She wiped the dirty water off the book with her own sleeve, not caring that she was dirtying her expensive jacket. "Check if the notes in there are still usable," she said, handing the book to me. Her hand was long and pale, but somehow it had picked up a stain on the fingertips. Suddenly, I remembered waking up in the hospital in my last life. The stack of books on the bedside table had been carefully dried of dirty water and neatly placed close to me. "Maya," I snapped back to reality, not opening the book but looking at her with a shaky voice. "I can't find you." I couldn't find Maya. All I knew about her was her name and that she was Chloe's sister. Other than that, I knew nothing. I remembered the uniform tied around her waist that day. It was the standard one everyone had to wear at our school, but there was no Maya at school, only Chloe. And Maya was supposed to quietly pass away at 17, this very year. Yet, I couldn't find her, not in this life, not in the last. This realization startled me into a panic. So I decided to take a gamble. I followed those girls, enduring their relentless insults and watching them stomp on my books, waiting for Maya to appear. She did, raising an eyebrow, looking both disgusted and speechless. "It's you again," she said. Maya was caught off guard by my statement. "You can't follow me," she instinctively replied. Her younger guy couldn't help but laugh. Realizing his mistake, he awkwardly coughed and shoved the book back into my hands. "Me," she said, pointing to herself. "I'm a classic troublemaker." Then she pointed to me. "And you're the good student who can outdo Chloe on exams. If you hang out with me, what's that all about?" She chuckled at her own words, but her smile slowly faded when she saw my silent stare. "Wait, are you serious?" Maya's voice grew panicked. I even heard her mutter under her breath, "Oh man, if Mr. Evans hears you want to hang out with me, he'll kill me." Mr. Evans was my homeroom teacher during freshman year, the only teacher who had treated me with real kindness. Maya knew him, and maybe even had a good relationship with him. I made a mental note of that. Then I called her name. "Maya." "What?" I smiled at her, then walked over to the lead girl and slapped her sharply across the face a few times. Everyone was stunned, including Maya. The girl started screaming like a madwoman. "There's a fruit knife in my backpack," I said calmly. "I really have nothing, so I don't care if I lose something." Chloe had once called me a calm lunatic. It was after a man went on a rampage on the street with a knife. Chloe was with her first love, Dylan, who had just returned from abroad. I had stepped in and taken a knife wound for her, and, in the process, managed to subdue the man. Back then, Chloe had been terrified, her hands trembling as she tried to cover my wound. "Psycho!" she had yelled at me, tears in her eyes. "You might seem calm all the time, but deep down you're a lunatic." I hadn't responded, just smiled at her. Because back then I thought she was Maya and I had to protect her. She wasn't wrong. I really was a lunatic. "Are you scared?" I asked the girl in front of me as she clamped her mouth shut. I gave her a reassuring smile. "There's nothing to be scared of. After all, I haven't gotten to—" Maya jumped in before I could finish. She cursed lowly under her breath and pulled me away from the girl. Then she turned to me and asked, "Where'd you get the knife? Didn't I take away your box cutter?" "The ring you gave me could buy a lot of them," I replied. Maya was caught off guard, her expression turning fierce as she raised her voice. "Was that ring meant for buying knives?" "So, Maya, I'm not the good student you think I am." I looked up at her, my mind flashing back through the years, back to when my parents beat and scolded me, refusing to let me go to school, and to all the times I was bullied and tormented. The string of logic inside me had always been pulled tight, so tight that even a single straw could make everything collapse. My box cutter was always with me. The Maya from my past life would never know what a great thing she had unknowingly done. "Maya," I licked my dry lips, cautiously holding on to a small piece of her clothing. "Can I follow you?" I had followed Chloe countless times, which only made her more annoyed with me. But I wanted to follow Maya. I wanted to protect her, and I didn't want her to hate me. So I quickly let go of her clothing and waited quietly for her judgment. Sounds of gasps filled the air from Maya's friends, followed by teasing whispers, but Maya remained silent. After a long pause, she frowned, picked up my backpack, pulled out the fruit knife, and clicked her tongue. But after a glance, she put it back, along with the books she'd wiped clean. "I'll give you my answer the third time we meet," she said. Probably shocked by my actions that day, Maya had her friends take turns following me until they saw I got home safely. Because of the money Maya had given her, my mom stayed calm for a while, though now and then she'd yell cryptically about raising a beast who dared to threaten her with a knife. I guess things had really turned upside down, but she didn't dare say it to my face, and she didn't dare hit me either. My dad was out of town for work, so he wasn't around. I ignored her, though occasionally I'd sharpen a knife in front of her, which was enough to scare my mom into keeping my sister away from me. Those classmates who had ganged up on me were punished. Mr. Evans himself talked to their parents. They tried to argue, but he wasn't having it. He showed them a video that Maya had given him. Maybe she had done something similar in a past life. Nothing was more convincing than that video. Even when a few of the guys accused me of carrying a fruit knife to threaten them, nobody believed them. I became the complete victim of this bullying incident, and they were made to apologize to me publicly. After everyone left the office, Mr. Evans asked me about the knife. One of the guys I had threatened had yelled to search my backpack, but of course he didn't find what he was looking for. Mr. Evans and I had a silent standoff until I just tapped my pocket. His eyes widened, and he was so mad he had to gulp down a cup of cold tea to calm down. "Troublemaker! All of you are troublemakers," he scolded, pointing at me just like he must have pointed at Maya. "Can't be controlled. Stubborn as hell. No wonder he kept telling me to keep an eye on you. I always thought you were pretty quiet. Didn't think you'd be this shady." I stood there, saying nothing, just taking his lecture. It only made him angrier. He slammed the table and said that even my unbothered look was exactly like Maya's. Thankfully, the class bell interrupted his scolding. "Alex, remember," he waved me off to class, but then called me back. "There are many paths to take. If one doesn't work, find another. You won't get stuck. Life's long, don't ruin it over a rash moment." I nodded and then asked, "Why isn't Maya coming to school?" Mr. Evans wasn't surprised that I asked about her. He laughed. Everyone thinks I'm some info dealer. If you want to know about her, ask her yourself. All I can say is, Maya's got her own path to walk. I nodded, showing I understood. I didn't know what Maya's path was, but I was determined to help her walk it safely this time around. That was my chosen path. I saw Maya a week later at a physics competition held at another school. She had come to pick up Chloe. This was the first time I had seen Chloe since my rebirth. She seemed a lot more fragile than Maya, but she still had that friendly, gentle smile. They looked exactly the same, yet now I could easily tell them apart. My assigned seat was in front of Chloe. She looked a bit surprised when she saw me, then gave a slightly awkward smile, nothing like the sharpness and mockery from the past. I quickly looked away, quietly waiting for the competition to start. Did I hate Chloe? Not really. From the very beginning, I was the one who had mistaken things and thought I was being kind by sticking around her, constantly bothering her. It was only natural that she didn't like me. Chloe finished her exam a few minutes before I did. As I left the school grounds, I saw her standing with Maya. Maya was wearing a baseball cap and a mask, casually resting a hand on Chloe's shoulder. Her laid-back vibe was completely different from Chloe's polished demeanor. I walked over to Maya. Chloe noticed me first. She hesitated, as if she wanted to look away, but couldn't help smiling a little. She watched me, her gaze never leaving, until I passed by her and stood directly in front of Maya. "Maya," I said, looking only at her. "I've come to see you." It was our third meeting. Maya had once said she'd give me her answer on our third meeting. "You recognized me even when I'm in disguise?" Maya was surprised. Then she laughed. "You really are stubborn. Want to grab a bite? My treat." I nodded. I didn't look at Chloe again, so I didn't see her face go pale when I said Maya's name. "Chloe, you coming?" Maya asked. "It's just a simple noodle shop. Probably not your style." Chloe was a rich girl, picky about her food. Maya was nothing like her in that way. I thought Chloe might refuse, but surprisingly she agreed, her voice a bit hoarse. The noodle shop owner knew Maya well and gave us extra side dishes. Maya and I enjoyed our food, but Chloe only had a few bites before setting down her chopsticks, frowning slightly. "I knew you wouldn't like it," Maya teased, handing her a bottle of water. "Should I have the driver pick you up?" "No," Chloe declined, looking at me with some unreadable emotion in her eyes. "How did you meet my sister?" she asked. "Maya saved me twice," I replied, deciding to be honest with her. "So I'm really grateful to her." "Alex is the one I told you about before," Maya said, opening a beer and then raising an eyebrow at me. "Want a drink?" I shook my head. She laughed. "See? A guy who doesn't smoke or drink, yet he's brave enough to take a knife to his bullies." The comment seemed to shock Chloe. Her lips moved silently before she softly said, "I didn't even know." "You think just because you're a bit smarter you know everything?" Maya misunderstood her sister's words. Chloe kept silent, not explaining further. Not long after, she was picked up by her driver. "You know Chloe's not well and you bring her to a place like this?" The driver, Uncle Wang. His tone wasn't as respectful to Maya as it was to Chloe. It even carried a hint of resentment. I always knew Chloe's health was delicate, and her family was super careful about it. Still, this guy's attitude towards Maya really pissed me off. So I stepped in front of Maya, my tone harsh. Chloe was the one who insisted on tagging along. Maya tried to talk her out of it. Chloe's eyelashes fluttered. She looked up at me, seemingly in disbelief. But Maya just chuckled and teased me. "Standing in front of me like that, what do you think you can do if something really happened?" She always had this carefree, nonchalant attitude. Even when misunderstood, she couldn't be bothered to explain. And that got me even more fired up, including being mad at her. I glared at her, and realizing I was actually angry, Maya awkwardly scratched her nose and then tried to soothe me skillfully. I was just joking. Our Alex here is so strong he could take down 10 guys all by himself. I said nothing and kept glaring at her. It was really my idea to come along, Chloe suddenly spoke up, her voice thick and tight. It has got nothing to do with Maya. Uncle Wang looked a bit awkward, but in the end he just glanced at Maya and then left with Chloe. I kept glaring until I thought my eyes would pop out. Suddenly, my face felt cool. It was Maya, pressing a cold can of soda to my cheek. "You're all red. I don't even know what you're so mad about," she said, though her eyes were filled with laughter. "Why don't you explain?" I suddenly remembered the things I had found out about Maya before, how people would call her uneducated, violent, and troublesome. It was like these words had become her nickname, but I didn't believe it. Maya thought for a moment, then replied seriously, "Because I didn't grow a mouth." "Maya," I said. "Maya," she responded, then reached out and pressed my head hard. "I'm not deaf, you know. I can hear," she interrupted as I tried to argue. "You and Chloe look exactly alike," I started. Maya leaned down, those bright eyes staring into mine, her expression unusually serious. "She looks good, is nice, and her grades are great. If you are looking for something to chase, or if you just like this face, she is a much better choice. If you think you owe me just because I helped you before, you really don't have to." Maya chuckled and straightened up, her voice casual again. "I have a bunch of flaws. If there's one good thing, maybe it's that I occasionally do something nice. If I see a stray cat or dog on the street, I'll give them a sausage. I'll drop a coin for a beggar, let alone help a poor guy." My anger slowly faded as I quietly watched her again, sensing her deliberate detachment. She seemed like she didn't care about anything, but I noticed her hands were shaking slightly at her side while she was saying those things. Her words didn't match her heart. So I told Maya about myself. When I was born, my mom wanted to strangle me, but she didn't succeed because people in the village stopped her. Later she wanted to sell me, but I knew my way back home. They didn't want me to go to school, so I always worked hard to pay for it myself, never giving them any reason to force me to drop out. Maya grew quiet, too. "So, Maya, you'll never know how heroic it was for you to just stop my mom that day." My vision grew blurry, and I couldn't even make out her face anymore. "Chloe is great, but even if she's the best person on earth, she's not the light I want to follow. So even if you don't need it." I tried to continue, but found myself tongue-tied. What if Maya didn't need it? What if, like Chloe, she didn't really need my kind of useless gratitude? Suddenly, I felt lost and unsure. Then Maya burst out laughing. Her laughter was exaggerated, and she covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. "This is the first time I've heard someone describe me as a light. Most people just call me trash." Once she'd had enough laughing, she put down her hands, giving me a smile full of understanding and exasperation. "Alex, you are such a peculiar, stubborn kid," she added, grinning. Maya allowed me to stick around. I thought it was so I could find more ways to repay her, but in reality, she ended up looking after me most of the time. Whenever she got breakfast, she'd buy an extra portion, claiming a little brother had dropped out, but she was used to buying it anyway. "If you don't want it, tell Sam to toss it," she'd say. So I ate breakfast every day. Maya asked me to tell her more school stories when we met up. "I have nothing to do most days, and when you're bored, you want a bit of fun," she chuckled. "I remember a bunch of oddballs at school. Make sure you spill the tea on them." I hadn't interacted with many people before, so naturally I didn't know much. But because Maya wanted to hear about it, I started trying to connect with my classmates just to have something to tell her. The stories would crack her up every time. "I'm curious how you can keep a straight face while saying the funniest things," she would laugh, wiping tears from the corners of her eyes. "Keep it up. There are plenty more weirdos for you to uncover." So I kept chatting with my classmates, talking about school gossip, until one day my typically distant deskmate commented, "I thought you were some untouchable genius who looked down on us all. Turns out you like hearing gossip, too. Seems like we have something in common." That's when it hit me. My relationships with my classmates had actually gotten better. For the first time, I felt like I was truly part of the class. When I realized this, at our next meeting, I solemnly told Maya, "I really want to do something for you." She smiled and asked back, "Do you think gratitude is just a one-way thing?" Her question caught me off guard. In the years when I had mistaken Chloe for her, that's exactly how I had acted. I always listened to Chloe, protected her, and followed her wishes, even if it meant annoying her. I had been trying to repay her in that way for 5 years. Wasn't that right? Maya didn't seem surprised by my reaction, so she patiently asked me, "You told me gossip about your school to entertain me. Is that true?" I hesitated for a moment, and then nodded. I felt happy. "Can you take that as me repaying you?" I nodded again, reluctantly. "So, what's bothering you?" Maya looked at me with a smile. "Why don't you try repaying me in a way that makes you happy too?" Maya told me there's always another way, even for repaying someone. A path that isn't full of thorns, a path where you can meet warm people. "You're too young, yet you think too much," she teased me. "Well, if you really want to do something, lend me your notes for a few days." Most of the boys under her wing had dropped out of school due to family issues. Maya always said she was leading a group of troublemakers. But ever since I met her, those guys never did anything bad again. "Even being a troublemaker requires some culture now," Maya told me. "Otherwise, when someone curses you, you might think they're praising you." She always believed I would become the top scorer in the college entrance exam because she thought her sister, Chloe, would be the future top scorer. Since I managed to surpass Chloe in the mock exams, it meant more to her than me just beating her sister. When my notes were returned, they were even more organized, especially the math section. Key points I had ignored were highlighted and even linked to previously learned concepts. Maya said it was probably one of her talented students showing potential, but her friend Sam secretly told me that Maya had organized it all herself. Despite her strong subject bias, Maya was particularly good at math. Sam looked proud when he said that. "Why doesn't she come to school?" I asked for the second time, and got the same response. "You'll have to ask Maya yourself," Sam said, scratching his head, a bit embarrassed. "Maya doesn't want us to talk about it." So I went to ask Maya. "I thought you'd wait a while before asking," she said. "But will you tell me?" I asked, focusing on her red hair. What I had seen that day wasn't a mistake. Maya had dyed her hair a bold red the first time we met. She had been filling in for Chloe, who was sick, and had been wearing a black wig. "No," she told me frankly. "Getting to know me isn't a good idea." She called me a wooden block in both name and nature, so I didn't ask further. Instead, I copied the notes Maya had organized for me and shared them with my classmates. The monthly test was approaching quickly. "Oh my God," my seatmate jumped up and down, hugging me after the exam. "Alex, your notes saved me, especially in science. There were several points I overlooked, and they were all on the test. I love you to pieces." Other classmates who used the notes came to thank me too, which drew in more curious students asking, "What notes? What notes? Save us, genius." I lent out my notes and told them it wasn't me who had organized them. It was Maya. Maya? One well-informed classmate's face changed. The twin sister of Chloe from First High? I paused, then nodded. Yes. Then I don't want them, he said, immediately tossing the notes away with disdain. A scumbag who seduced boys and caused harm in middle school? What good notes can she have? You should keep away from her. Who knows when she might cause trouble again? Full of contempt and arrogance, he called her a scumbag, trash. After venting, he stepped on the notes as if they were filthy mud. Everyone was stunned. I stared at the footprints on the notes, my mind going blank. By the time I came to my senses, I was already in a scuffle with him. My mom wouldn't come to the school, and Mr. Evans was away on a business trip. In the end, it was Maya who found someone to solve the problem for me. I get it now why you insist on sticking with me, she smirked. You're just looking for someone to clean up your messes. I hung my head in silence. Although I was technically 8 years older than the 17-year-old Maya, I couldn't find the words to argue back. But to my surprise, Chloe showed up too. She stood beside Maya, silently watching as she tended to my wounds. Then, when Maya stepped out for a moment, Chloe suddenly said, "Alex wouldn't fight." I continued bandaging my hand without a pause. "So," she repeated softly, 16-year-old Alex doesn't fight. He's timid, afraid of causing trouble. But 25-year-old Alex does." Her voice trembled as she spoke, and she fixed her gaze on me with teary eyes. "So, Alex, you're back, aren't you?" I rarely thought back to my high school years, but Chloe's words made me chuckle. "You're right," I smiled at her genuinely. 16-year-old Alex had been forced to go home after being bullied, missing the college entrance exam. Later, thanks to Chloe's family's support, he repeated a year and attended college. Seeing the girl who had helped him back then at Chloe's house, he felt even more obligated to repay them. I paused, then shook my head helplessly. "I've never regretted anything I've done, but Chloe, I think I might have messed up this time, Alex." Chloe seemed to sense what I was about to say. She started breathing heavily. Her health had never been good, and now she was gasping, clutching her heart, her face as pale as a sheet. So I didn't keep talking. If something happened to Chloe, Maya would be really worried. I wasn't surprised by Chloe's rebirth. It wasn't like I saw it coming, but, well, 17-year-old Chloe or 25-year-old Chloe, neither really meant much to me anymore. Chloe knew me too. After catching her breath, she asked me angrily, "So what? The person you've been focused on has never been me, right? Even after learning the truth, you didn't even bother to care about me at all, did you?" I kept quiet. Chloe's eyes slowly filled with hopelessness. She grabbed my wrist, squeezing it like she might crush my bones, and asked, word by word, "Why do you think just saying you did something wrong means you can easily leave it all behind? Alex, why?" "Well, I've paid the price," I said. Her grip hurt, but it was bearable. So I smiled at her and said softly, "I died, you know. Isn't that enough to satisfy your anger?" The word "died" must have hit some nerve because she let go and laughed bitterly. "Yeah, so you died. Served you right." Chloe had lost her usual warmth and gone back to being sharp and cutting. "Alex, you should really see how you looked after you died. Your body was so swollen from the water you couldn't even recognize yourself. You should have seen how hideous you looked." Maybe she wanted to provoke me, but she didn't know that I had given up on those useless emotions long ago. So I sighed and said, "Thanks for the trouble of fishing my body out. Must have cost quite a bit, huh?" My words choked her up. She wanted to say more when Maya walked in and interrupted us. "What body?" Maya caught some of our words, confused as she looked between us. Then she laughed. "Didn't you just hurt your hand? Relax, you're not gonna die. But if you ever fight again, I swear I'll knock you out myself." She looked at me with a serious smile, then ruffled my hair in frustration, calling me stubborn. Chloe watched us interact, staying silent. The fight was eventually left unresolved, but because of it, I finally learned why Maya hadn't continued her studies. Someone had seen a panicked boy run out of an alley, his clothes disheveled. He was so scared he didn't see where he was going and ran into the street, getting hit by a car. Maya had run out after him. The boy didn't die, but he ended up in a vegetative state and was still in the hospital. That area had no surveillance cameras, so Maya, who came out after him, was labeled as the culprit. No one believed her, not even her own parents, when she said she was trying to protect the boy from an abuser. Since they couldn't find the other person involved, and the only one who could clear her name was in a coma, everyone thought Maya was making it up. No one believed her because they all saw her as a delinquent. And you can't trust a delinquent, right? Chloe's parents forced Maya out of school, brought her to their home, changed her last name, and handled the incident with a firm hand. But back then, young Maya wasn't a delinquent at all. Mr. Evans, while telling me this, seemed so angry. She just wanted to give those kids a chance to do better, he said. But no one believed her, not even me. I didn't think someone could be so kind-hearted, especially not a middle schooler. Do you know why Maya got into fights? He asked me after a moment of silence. Because of Chloe. Chloe wasn't well, and her entire family treated her like a fragile object, but they couldn't always be around her. So the one who was there for Chloe the most was Maya. See? Even you know why. How can her parents not see it? Mr. Evans's smile was sarcastic. I thought of Chloe's parents from my past life and figured maybe they knew from the start. Their family cared a lot about their reputation. Even if Maya fought to protect Chloe, raising a fist made her a perpetrator, not a victim. They could accept Maya being a temporary victim, but not a constant aggressor. So they chose Chloe over Maya, and Chloe was the obedient, high-achieving child who could benefit the family more. Alex, Mr. Evans patted my shoulder with a sigh. Sometimes I think you two are really similar. Things were dug up again. What Chloe's family had suppressed with harsh tactics led to an even harsher backlash. This time, I had caused this backlash. I searched for Maya, but couldn't find her. I figured she was upset. Before I could find her to explain, my dad came back. He dragged me home, talking about how I fought and was out of control. No one stopped him. Once they thought I needed disciplining, they let him do as he pleased. With him back, my mom added fuel to the fire, embellishing how unruly I'd been. Soon, he'll probably just run off with a woman, she spat, cursing me with the vilest words. My little sister joined in, throwing toy cars at me. Don't run! Make money! Buy me toys! A metal toy car hit my forehead, and blood started streaming down, blurring my eyes. I just watched this family in silence. It was probably because my mom had reminded him. As soon as my dad dragged me home, the first thing he did was strip off my clothes. He found the knife I had hidden on me. I stood there, almost naked in front of them, feeling numb and indifferent. They locked me up at home to punish me. My mom starved me for days. Any little bit of weight I had gained with Maya's help was completely gone. Does that factory still want him? I heard my dad ask my mom. Go talk to them, see if they'll pay more. Let's get rid of this kid, he said. They hid all the sharp objects in the house to keep me from escaping. Except for mealtime, my hands and feet were almost always tied up. It felt like I had returned to the darkest times of my past life. But this time, I was calm. I had a plan. The worst-case scenario was all-out destruction. What I didn't expect was Chloe barging in with the police. It was the day I was supposed to be sold to the factory. To avoid any mishaps, those two had practically finalized the deal and were ready to send me off immediately. There I was, tied up, while the man was counting money with a cigarette dangling from his lips, and people around were congratulating my father. That's when Chloe came in with the cops. "Bastards!" she spat, her eyes blazing with anger. She was shaking as she untied me, throwing her own clothes over the glaring factory uniform I was wearing. Besides those few words, though, she didn't say anything else. "Someone reported illegal trading," the police announced. "It's just work, my dad grinned, explaining to the police. "Kids in the countryside start working early. We were just letting him work in the factory until he's of age to get paid. It's not illegal." "Yeah, exactly," my mom chimed in. "Plus, it's family business. You cops can't interfere in family matters, right?" The man who was buying me was too shocked to make a sound. "I'm reporting them." My voice came out raspy from days without food or water. "They tried to sell me." At that, the cops' expressions turned serious. I had an older brother, but when I was old enough to work, I never saw him again. My mom had sold him as labor to a widow. My supposed father had tied him up and sent him there. He even broke his leg to keep him from escaping. So I knew from a young age what awaited me. They discovered I was good at school and decided to let me study, thinking I'd be worth more later. I thought my brother was the first victim, until I learned it wasn't their first time. He wasn't the first boy they had ruined. In my past life, I had spent a lot of effort collecting evidence and had personally sent them to prison. This time around, it was much easier. I led the police to the basement, where 3 unconscious boys were kept. My mom had a ledger in her room documenting every child they had trafficked and their selling price. The latest entry was my name. $3,000. With all the evidence, those 2 were taken away by the police right away. Before being taken, my dad glared at me, seething, and my mom cursed at me in coarse language. My little sister didn't hesitate. She ran up to me with her tiny toy car, yelling, "I'll beat you, you worthless breath!" She was just 6 years old. Chloe stepped between us, effortlessly stopping her. "Get lost," she said, making my sister cry. To help with the investigation, Chloe and I went to the station. Listening to them thank her over and over, I felt dazed. By the time we left, it was almost night. She had kept a polite smile all day, but now she rubbed her face tiredly. "I still like you better with red hair," I said. She turned to me, about to say something, but I interrupted her calmly. "Chloe." She blinked. "Redheads are my sister," she insisted. I stopped in my tracks, telling her, "Only Maya can take care of me. Only Maya can take me away." The girl in front of me, who was clearly Maya, laughed with annoyance. "Fine," she said, storming ahead. "We'll wait here and see if she comes for you." I stayed quiet, watching Maya leave. It started raining later on, and I found a bench to sit on. I thought about what I could do for her, only to realize with frustration how much I'd been troubling her. It wasn't like before with Chloe. No matter how much she resented me, she couldn't fault my work. I always fixed everything for her. So why was it all so different now? Lost in thought, I didn't look up until a familiar voice cut through the rain. "Don't you know to find shelter when it rains?" Maya was back, soaked through. She didn't say a word before pulling me to my feet. "Maya," I called her name with a smile. "I really don't have a home now." There was no sadness when I said it, only relief. I had told Chloe once before, and that was the only time I had let my guard down with her. But she had just sneered, "Alex, you think you're any better than your parents?" So I never mentioned it again. But this time was different. This time I had Maya. Cautiously, I asked her a question I never had the courage to ask in my past life. "So, Maya, can you look after me again?" Maya paused, but this time she didn't deny it. Instead, she smirked at me with a feigned annoyance. "When have I not? I've practically waited on you hand and foot." I couldn't help but laugh, though my eyes stung. Maya always scolded me for being so rigid. Call you a wooden block. Once, and you become one, huh? Gonna drink rainwater and soak up nature's energy? She joked. But when she saw my injuries, she fell silent, finally swearing under her breath. Those bastards. I should have kicked them harder back there. She tried to change the subject to distract me. Finally, things were okay. I thought you were mad, I said, looking down at my bandaged wound, feeling a bit dazed. I clearly said I wanted to repay you, yet I always seemed to cause you trouble. I thought you were mad, and that's why I couldn't find you, I admitted. Why would you think I'm mad? She asked. Because I brought up things you'd rather forget. Just because I don't want to talk about something doesn't mean others won't bring it up. I can't stop everyone's chatter, Maya said with a smile. Then she reassured me. I'm not mad. I just had some things to handle those days. That's all. If I were truly mad, I wouldn't have gone through all the trouble to save you. Later, I found out that when that old issue resurfaced, Maya's angry parents had forced her back home. She had worried I wouldn't be able to find her and would overthink things or get into trouble. So those days, Maya was trying to find a way out. Eventually, Chloe suggested they swap identities. Maya made herself look sick like Chloe by starving herself. Only then did she manage to escape. But Maya never told me any of this. She simply said, Maya's identity can't be seen at the police station. So, how did you recognize me? It was clear she was more interested in this. She touched her chin, amused. Even my parents can't tell us apart. I didn't know how to explain that when Maya was in front of me. I just knew it was her. If I had to describe it, maybe it was my subconscious fear of being wrong and never finding her again. So I told her, I won't mistake you for someone else the second time. Maya thought I meant I had mixed her up with Chloe at first, so she didn't think much of it, just smiled. Soon, Mr. Evans arrived hurriedly after getting the news. Without saying much, he just patted me on the shoulder, his eyes slightly red, and comforted me softly. Let's go. Your teacher's wife is waiting for you at home. Maya didn't come along. As Mr. Evans was about to take me away, she suddenly asked, You trust me, just like that? Her face still wore that carefree smile, but somehow I sensed her hidden cautiousness. So I thought for a moment and said, I'm a stubborn person, you know. I stick to what I believe in. Maya slowly put away her smile and finally sighed. What an odd person you are. My relationship with Maya seemed to have grown closer. She didn't run around much anymore. Instead, Mr. Evans nagged her to start relearning her high school subjects. A sister should set a good example, he'd say. Maya wanted to refuse, but seeing me watching her, she swallowed her words. She brushed her nose and sighed. Fine. Then, because of what had happened, no high school would accept her, so she had to study at Mr. Evans's house. Sam was right. Maya was indeed really good at certain subjects. Even with just a bit of self-study, she scored close to perfect in math on the mock exams. But her humanities scores were terrible, almost driving Mr. Evans, the literature teacher, to spank her out of frustration. You're just trying to infuriate me, aren't you? He'd rage. At these times, Maya would become unusually compliant. She'd lower her head and listen attentively to his scolding, like a girl pretending to be sorry. But she'd still sneak winks at me when he wasn't paying attention, with a look that said, I hear you, but I won't change. That unbothered demeanor was just like her. I recalled Mr. Evans's angry words to me before, and couldn't help but smile. The Maya standing here now was lively and real, far from just lines of cold text on a piece of paper. So I thought I should do a bit more. I visited the family of the comatose boy. Maya's family covered all the medical expenses, and she would also visit him. But the family blamed her for their son's situation, so every time she came, they'd yell at her to leave. Yet she kept visiting, quietly leaving things before going away, even though they were always thrown out. When they heard I was visiting because of Maya, the smiles on their faces disappeared immediately. "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness," I quickly said, blocking the door with my hand before they could shut it. The door pinched my hand, making a dull thud. My hand instantly turned red and swollen, but I didn't feel the pain. "Just give me a few minutes," I almost pleaded. Looking at my hand, they eventually stayed silent. So I shared a story from the perspectives of Mr. Evans and the boys Maya led. I took out a recorder. The boys had clubbed together their savings to buy the most expensive one, thinking only the best was worthy of her. But in reality, they just had so much to say. It was full of their voices. "I don't have parents. My grandma raised me by collecting trash. Before meeting Maya, I didn't know people ate 3 meals a day," said a chubby boy, who surprisingly used to be skin and bones. "My parents got divorced and didn't want me, so I became a thief. I stole Maya's stuff the most, but she didn't call the cops. She beat me up and made me write out socialist core values 100 times if I stole," said Sam. As he spoke, he started reciting the values, only to be interrupted by others pulling him away. "And me," another chimed in. "I have many sisters and no money for school. Maya paid for my tuition. When my grandma got sick, it was Maya who paid the hospital bill." Line after line spoke of their gratitude towards her. The family sat in silence and listened till the end, not saying a word. Finally, the mother just couldn't hold back and burst into tears, covering her face with her hands. The father hugged his wife silently, his eyes red, and told me, "We all know that a true criminal wouldn't feel guilty, especially when the law can't convict her. But Maya kept coming back every week for 4 years straight. Even after one time when I beat her black and blue, she still came back without a word. We all know this." As he spoke, the father started to choke up, too. "But we don't have any other options. We really don't. We're just an average family. We can't afford our son's high medical bills. This was the only way," he said. I was speechless. I know how desperate poverty can make people, especially when life and death are on the line. So even though I opened my mouth, I couldn't bring myself to scold them. "We'll try to make things clear," the mother said, wiping away her tears. "But our testimony won't make a big difference." These parents speaking up for Maya wouldn't clear her name. It might just make others believe they'd been bribed. "I know," I said, trying to calm down and forced a smile. "Only if the boy wakes up can we prove Maya's innocence." We really didn't know if he would ever wake up. At that, the mother broke down crying again. "He'll wake up," I said, looking at the boy on the hospital bed, sounding more certain than I felt. It left his parents speechless. As they walked me out, the father couldn't help but ask, "Do you really believe in her? Even her own parents didn't believe she didn't do it." "Belief might not be the right word," I said, thinking. Then, looking out at the sunshine, I remembered how Maya always walked in the shadows when we first met. So I just smiled. "I just want Maya to walk confidently in the sunlight." The father had no words. His gaze drifted past me. Maya. I didn't know how long she'd been standing there or how much she'd heard. She just casually walked over and, patting my head, apologized to the boy's parents. "Sorry about this kid bothering you." "Oh, it's fine," they replied. Maya dropped off some stuff without a word and took me to see the doctor. She had quickly noticed me trying to hide my hand. "I should have just ignored it all along. You should let your hand get crippled so you can't take the college entrance exam," she said with a mocking laugh. Her sarcasm hit me hard, leaving me too guilty to talk back. Even the doctor couldn't take it and tried to defend me, but Maya wasn't having it. Leaving the hospital, Maya stayed silent. I couldn't help but ask, Sam and the others mentioned you went out today." "You think those punks can keep anything from me?" she said, turning to me with a wry grin. "I can tell what they're up to just by looking at them." I stayed quiet. "Got anything else to say?" "Yeah," I hesitated, but said, "They believe you didn't do it too." But I didn't see any surprise on her face. She just nodded calmly. "I know," she said. "You know they need to hate me to have a reason to keep pushing on," she replied with a shrug. "Doesn't really cost me anything." But how could it not cost anything? She couldn't go to school because of this, and had to endure all those looks and insults. How was that nothing? I got so worked up I couldn't choose my words. "People say you're the godfather, then you're the saint." "You're right," she agreed, nodding. "If I wasn't, I wouldn't have picked up all you troublesome folks." I couldn't win against Maya, so I just shut up in frustration, glaring at her with eyes welling up. "Why are you crying?" It wasn't until I felt warmth on my face that I realized I was already crying. With a sigh, Maya pulled out a small pack of tissues from her pocket, the kind with floral prints and a light scent. "You're getting all snotty now," she joked. "Didn't you say carrying tissues is sissy?" I snatched the tissues from her and couldn't help but retort. "Yeah," she chuckled. "Isn't that just me? I didn't have what it takes to outstubborn her. At least it got me to cool down. She had always been flexible like that." But then she asked, "Do you really believe he'll wake up?" "He has to," I answered firmly. Maya paused, stunned, then laughed softly, calling me a brat with a sigh and a smile. "Thanks, you guys." Later that day, I exaggerated and told Mr. Evans all about it. He pulled out a belt and gave Maya a good thrashing, but before he was done, he ended up crying himself. So Maya didn't even try to dodge. She just let him hit her while gently comforting him, even though she was the one who deserved comfort. Mr. Evans realized this soon enough and stopped, turning to make a big lunch with his wife. As for me, after tattling, I made a face at Maya when she glared my way. She pretended to threaten me, but soon broke into a smile. Seeing her smile, I suddenly realized how much I've changed. Words like vibrant and alive started to apply to me. In my past life, I was only ever called things like numb or a calm lunatic. But maybe this isn't so bad, I told myself, and couldn't help but sneak in a smile. Everything seemed to be heading in a good direction. So good that I almost forgot that in another life, Maya had died at age 17, and I still didn't know why. Her family kept everything locked up tight. When I tried asking Chloe, she deflected. She had died in that kidnapping. After waking from a nightmare about it, I felt like a bird startled by danger. It seemed I'd reverted to my past self, paranoid and yet calmly insane. I went to see Chloe. I tried to get details out of her about Maya's death in our past life and tried hard to avoid any confrontation. But Chloe wouldn't tell me a thing, even when I begged her on my knees. It was like she turned back into the superior Chloe from before, with that mocking tone saying, "What? You want to protect my sister like you tried to protect me in our past life? Alex, don't even think about it." It must have been something about me kneeling there that triggered her. Chloe looked a bit crazy. She squatted down close to me and smiled as she said, "Oh, you know why I was so healthy in our past life? Because what was beating inside my chest was my sister's heart." I jerked my head up, instinctively grabbing her collar, but she calmly pried my fingers loose one by one. Then she said, word for word, "Someone like you who doesn't know what love is. Everything you do just feels like a burden. Painful, even. Alex, why'd you run away? Wouldn't it be better just to rot at home?" "Chloe?" Maya's furious voice cut her off. I was in a daze for a moment, and when I snapped out of it, Maya and Chloe were already fighting. Chloe didn't fight back. She just took a second to look at me with that familiar, mocking smile, amplifying the panic inside me. So when Maya took me away, I was completely out of it. Don't listen to what that brat says. Maya was a bit exasperated. She's been acting weird lately, rambling nonsense at home. Don't let it get to you. I still kept my head down, lost in thought, until I heard Maya let out a barely audible sigh. She let go of my hand, took 2 steps forward, then turned back with open arms. You want to cry in your auntie's arms? Her tone was teasing, but this time I didn't even care to be mad. I just rushed into her embrace, holding on tight enough to feel myself shaking. What are you so afraid of? She patted my back like soothing a child. You're all grown up now. Maya. Maya. I kept calling her name over and over, like it was the only thing keeping me going. Finally, through tears, I choked out, I don't want you to die. Phooey, 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 I won't die! Maya feigned disdain, spitting several times. Her chin rested on my shoulder, so I couldn't see how soft her gaze was. I could only hear her say, I won't die. After all, I have to be there when my future valedictorian friend appears on TV, only to tell everyone that this valedictorian is a crybaby. But Maya didn't keep her promise. She almost died trying to save someone. She saved 3 boys from drowning, but the last one kicked at her in a panic, and she didn't make it back up. When I rushed to the scene, cluelessly staring at the calm water, my hands and feet went numb. She touched me, the rescued boy cried out. She kept grabbing me, so I kicked her away. That's not how you're supposed to save someone. Everyone comforted the boy. Some even recognized Maya, sneering. Knew she wasn't such a saint. She's done stuff like this before. A burst of anger surged inside me, but I forced it down because now wasn't the time. I looked at the water, involuntarily remembering the feeling of drowning to death in my past life. I was terrified, trembling with fear. But I still rushed out because Maya was in there. I had to find her. But Chloe stopped me. She held me tight, her voice trembling. You can't swim. You go in and it's a death sentence. I've already sent someone to save my sister. Don't worry, she'll be fine. I couldn't hear anything, acting like a beast, pulling and biting at Chloe, yet she gritted her teeth, refusing to let go of me. Until Linda was saved. She was rushed to the hospital after emergency CPR, and Chloe still didn't release me. I sat on the ground, drained, almost suffocating. It wasn't until I heard someone say, "Scum like her should just die," that I turned my head cold and rigid. I stood up and took slow steps toward them. Whenever Maya was around, she'd confiscate anything sharp from me, but after that dream, I had secretly hidden one anyway. So when I pulled out the knife, panic screams erupted, but I couldn't hear them, couldn't see anything but red. I always knew there was a complete maniac inside me. Only Maya could chain it up, lock it all down. But Maya wasn't there. Maya's alive! Chloe's scream cut through the chaos, clear in my ears. Gripping her heart painfully, she still pushed forward step by step. Maya's not hurt, but if you get hurt, do you know how upset she'll be when she wakes up? Did you think only you wanted to save her? I wanted to, too. Chloe looked at me, veins bulging, as she painfully snatched the knife from my grip. Let me take you to see Maya. She was shaking even more than I was. I'll take you to her. Maya made it, but having been underwater for too long, she fell into a coma. The only good news was that she had a strong will to live. Unlike last time, when she didn't want to live at all, Chloe rasped, breaking a long silence. She said that long ago, a respected priest had told Maya her fate. There'd be a near-death experience, but getting through it would mean peace and joy for the rest of her life. But Maya, always vibrant and lively, causing trouble, rarely even got sick. Meanwhile, Chloe was the sickly one from childhood. So no one took that prediction seriously, until Maya died, utterly without the will to live. Maya has been dead set on ending her life. I couldn't stop it, Chloe was both laughing and crying. I stopped it once before, but I didn't expect it to happen again. If Maya really wants to leave this world, no one can stop her. I listened, numbed out. No emotions on my end. Chloe said a lot more, probably about our past life, but none of it included Maya, so I just couldn't focus. I don't want Maya to die. I don't want you gone, either. Before she left, Chloe hit me with this line. She looked at me, a smile even sadder than crying on her face. But even after all those words, you still chose to stay by Maya's side. So Alex, go ahead and hate me. I stayed silent. Maya slept for ages. I hung out at the hospital with her for over a week. In the end, Mr. Evans just couldn't watch anymore. He dragged me out of there. Tough love style. You think good grades give you a pass to do whatever? His eyes were red, but he acted all stern. Valedictorian? You want to throw that away? Maya's waiting to be on TV with you for an interview. I stared blankly at him, lost for words. I guess I looked pretty pitiful. Mr. Evans softened up a bit. He made me promise it wouldn't mess with my schooling. Then he let me come back at night to be with Maya. A lot went down while she was asleep. The boy from the alley woke up. The day after, his parents involved the cops. Even though he was weak, he cleared Maya's name. And then there was the guy she had saved from drowning, who ended up accusing her of assault. He got sued too. Chloe pulled out a recording pen, and everyone heard that guy mocking Maya, no holds barred, blaming her for turning him down. She's got a record. Getting touchy when saving me was only natural, right? It's not like I kicked her on purpose. People just react in the moment, don't they? Even if Maya did end herself, it wouldn't be on me. Don't pin it on me. Maya went from villain to everyone's hero overnight. More and more folks came by to see her in the hospital. Sometimes I couldn't even get in. In the end, her family took her overseas for treatment. They'd already lined up specialists there ages ago. It's just that Chloe had gone to bat and had specialists brought here first. But some equipment wasn't available domestically, so Maya had to be shipped out. Mr. Evans gave me a reassuring pat. You hit the books. Maybe Maya can see you on TV one day. I quietly stared at that empty hospital bed and mumbled an, okay. Maya surviving was really more than good enough. Things seemed to go back to normal. I went to school and back like usual, did my work-study thing. Sam and the guys would swing by sometimes, act all mean, and ask if anyone was giving me trouble so they could fight my battles. And every time Mr. Evans would yank their ears and lecture them, they'd apologize, all well-behaved, only to do it again later. No one mentioned Maya, as if she had never existed. Until summer came around the next year. I was in my junior year. I got to class early and found a familiar figure in my seat. I looked at that back, stunned on the spot. The few early birds in class were whispering. Isn't that Chloe from First High? No way, my friend from First High saw her this morning. Super happy. Doesn't Chloe have a twin sister? Her name is Maya, I blurted out urgently. The girl turned. That all-too-familiar mischievous grin was on her face. Long time no see. You've grown prettier, she teased, pretending to seriously ponder while stroking her chin. Isn't it wild? This wooden log has bloomed into a beautiful flower. I was speechless, my vision blurring. In that haze, I watched Maya walk toward me, step by step, just like back in that alleyway. She walked towards me against the light, reaching out her hand. Her smile, as always, was bright and bold. She said, "Alex, I'm here to see you."